is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in this field. It is the smallest of all the seeds, but when it has grown, it is the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed in with 3 measures of flour until all of it was leavened. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. Then in his joy he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and caught fish of every kind. When it was full, they drew it ashore, sat down, and put the goods into baskets, but threw out the bad. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous and throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have you understood all this? They answered, yes. And he said to them, therefore every scribe who has been trained for the kingdom of heaven is like the master of a household, who brings out of his treasure what is new and what is old. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Good morning. Good morning. Please be seated. Today, we have read a passage from the book of Matthew that is a series of parables Jesus gives about the kingdom of heaven. Jesus is sharing these parables with his disciples, the Pharisees present, and the crowd gathered to hear him speak. These were all people who believed that the kingdom of heaven was coming, but when it was coming and how it was coming were unknown. Was this Son of Man to bring about the kingdom of heaven? If so, how would he do it? Surely it would be some massive event, some great stirring of the sea and sky. The whole world would be turned on its head as the Messiah, the eternal King, brought God's kingdom here to earth. The well-read Jews in the crowd might have been picturing something like the cedar tree the prophet Ezekiel talks about. Quote, on the mountain height of Israel will I plant it, that it may bear branches and produce fruit and become a noble cedar, and under it will dwell every kind of bird. In the shade of its branches, birds of every sort will nest. I had a friend in college who loved astrology, and once he said to me, the hardest thing about being a Gemini is that I don't know what I want, but I know I want it now. That's pretty relatable regardless of when you were born, I think. A dissatisfaction with the present that must be immediately changed, but to what? In this passage, we see an audience that feels the same way. They do not understand the nature of the kingdom, but they know they want it now. And they think they know how it will look when it arrives, like a gigantic tree, a cedar or a redwood, massive and grand that can't be cut down. So imagine their surprise and maybe even disappointment to hear Jesus say, the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all the seeds, but when it has grown, it is the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree. A mustard seed? A teeny tiny mustard seed? That's the kingdom of heaven? And you're telling us we have to wait for it to grow into a tall shrub? How can that challenge Roman rule? How can that be big enough to hold us, to sustain us? That's crazy. Some people walked away from Christ then, thinking this can't be what we've been waiting for. But it's also crazy to think that all the clergy of our denomination and of all denominations that believe in apostolic succession, started from 12 men. Now there are over 2.4 to 2.6 billion Christians worldwide today. Imagine their astonishment had they been able to look into the future and see us. See the size of that mustard seed now. There's a tree that sits outside my bedroom window. It was planted when I was about 4 or 5, I think, to fill the space where a rotted tree had fallen shortly after my parents had bought their house here in Westboro. I'm now 31, and that sapling has blossomed into a beautiful, crimson, lanky little tree that stops about 4 feet below my bedroom window. It is towered over by the oak in our neighbor's yard and completely dwarfed by the tree line across the street from the lake. She is small, but she is alive and beautiful. There's a particular way the sunlight hits her that makes it seem as if hundreds of red blood cells are flowing underneath her leaves. I have looked out at this sapling turned tree for most of my life. It has been a constant comfort to me, growing with me. This, to me, is a brief earthly glimpse at the kingdom of heaven, a peek behind the curtain to the sustaining beauty of God's love for all of us. We may want or expect big things from God, some grand, obvious sign that we're doing the right thing, that our prayers are being heard, that the present moment we find unsatisfying will change immediately. But in my experience, this is not what we get. We get little gifts, small signs, slow change, slow growth. But slow growth is still growth. Every little bit counts. With each passing day, the mustard seed of our faith's roots deepen, its leaves spread wide to receive the gifts from the sun. Nowadays, I'm trying to practice patience and dance in his light. Amen.